people that you know. Get into these discussions. Don't allow people to subjugate your conversation about politics or what's going on in this country simply because it gets heated and hot and people yell at each other. You got to get beyond that. You got to get beyond it. They can be as passionate as they want, yelling and screaming as all they want. But when you use facts, ladies and gentlemen, with a lot of people, they'll listen to fact. They may not agree with it. Doesn't matter. Facts are facts. As long as you use facts to get the word out, to let people know what's happening, you're doing okay. Aaron says, Aaron, let me get that right. Aaron said something a little while ago in the chat. He said, keep up the fight, Jay. People just need to stand up. Even shouting at the internet is better than keeping quiet and going with the flow. Those are great words, man. Those are great words. Thank you, Aaron. I appreciate that. I really do. That's what it's all about. Not being silent, not allowing this government to suppress what it is you have to say, no matter what it is. You have the right to free speech. Even if it hurts somebody else, that's your right to say that. I mean, you'll end up rolling with the repercussions on what it is you say. You are liable for what you say. You're responsible for what you say, but you have the right to say it. That's what this country is all about. You have the right to say it, even if it hurts people. You have the right to say it, but know that you will be held responsible and held to your word. That's, but you absolutely have the right to say whatever you want in this country. And this government, this president, this regime, if you will, has no right to take that away from you, which is what they're trying to do. Which leads me to the next subject I wanted to talk about tonight, which practically ties into everything if you think about it. What this administration is really trying to do, it's trying to use the Constitution to subjugate your freedom of speech. We see it in the courts. Judges are overriding people's votes in various states across this country. How is this even possible? Because people aren't standing up and fighting them. You may not be able to fire these judges, but you can slap them down, boy. Man, you can slap them down. Who are they to say that the vote of the people doesn't count anymore? But if you don't say anything, these steps, they take little baby steps. This is what they've been doing for the last 50 or 60 years, ladies and gentlemen. They've been taking baby steps. And the baby steps that they've been taking have led us to where we are today. Into a country that's split right down the middle. Who wants conservatism and the belief in this country that the United States is great, always will be, always was. And then you have those who blame us for every little thing that ever happened in this world. Because it's our fault. If we go after ISIS, well, it's our fault that they're doing this because now they're going to use this attack as fodder for getting more people into their... Go get out of here with that garbage. They're going to do it anyway. Now look what's happening in our streets. It's not at epidemic proportions yet, but it's happening. That's the key point here, ladies and gentlemen. It's happening. They have gotten into the minds of some Americans, and it's happening. Here's a story written by a man who I respect. I don't always agree with him, but I respect him. His name is Andrew Napolitano. He's a former judge of the Superior Court of New Jersey. He's written several books on the U.S. Constitution. The most recent, which is Theodore and Woodrow, How Two American Presidents Destroyed Constitutional Freedom. And you can find out more about Judge Napolitano by going to www.creators.com. I must say that Mr. Napolitano, or Judge Napolitano, is also, he's the senior judicial analyst for Fox News. Now, like I said, I don't agree with everything the judge says, but man, when he talks about the law and the Constitution, I don't think it's any better. And he wrote this article, and I want to read it for you because he breaks it down on a level I think we can all understand and what this president is really trying to do. Earlier this week, the federal government's National Science Foundation, an entity created to encourage the study of science, encouragement that it achieves by awarding grants to scholars and universities, announced that it had awarded a grant to study what people say about themselves and others in social media. The National Science Foundation dubbed the project Truthy, a reference to comedian Stephen Colbert's invention and hilarious use of the word truthiness. The reference to Colbert is cute, and he is a very funny guy, but when the feds get into the business of monitoring speech, it is surely no joke. It is a nightmare. It is part of the Obama administration's persistent efforts to monitor communication and scrutinize the expressions of and opinions that it hates and fears. Let me read that again. It is part of the Obama administration's persistent efforts to monitor communication and scrutinize the expressions of opinions it hates and fears. We already know that the National Security Agency has the digital versions of all telephone conversations and emails sent to, from, or within the United States since 2005. Edward Snowden's revelations of all this are credible and sustained, and the government's denials are weak and unavailing. So weak and unavailing that many NSA agents disbelieve them. But the government's unbridled passion to monitor us has become insatiable. Just 2 months ago, the Federal Communications Commission, which licenses broadcasters, threatened to place federal agents in cable television newsrooms so they can see how stories are generated and produced. The FCC doesn't even regulate cable, yet it threatened to enhance its own authority by monitoring cable companies from the inside. What's going on here? Well, what's going on here, and has been going on since President Obama took office in January of 2009, is a government with little or no fidelity to basic constitutional norms. There is no defense under the Constitution to any aspect of the government's federal, state, regional, local, or hybrid, or any entity owned or controlled by any government, or any entity that exercises the government's coercive powers or suspends or receives its money, monitoring the expressive behavior of anyone in the United States, not in the newsroom, on social media, or anywhere else. The NSF's stated purpose of the Truthy Squad is to look for errors in speech, particularly errors that fuel hatred or political extremes. This monitoring, this so-called search for error, is totalitarian and directly contradicts well-grounded Supreme Court jurisprudence for several reasons. 1. The government to gather information, public or private, on any person. The Constitution requires that the government have articulable suspicion. Now, let me stop here for a second. Articulable, what it means. It's capable of being uttered or pronounced. Pronounceable, in other words. Okay? Let me start this again. I wanted to because that word caught me off guard. I knew what it meant, but I had to find out exactly. First, for the government to gather information, public or private, on any person, the Constitution requires that the government have, quote, articulable suspicion, unquote, about that person. Articulable suspicion is a nature and objective reason to believe that the person has engaged in criminal behavior. Without that level of articulable belief, the government is powerless to scrutinize anyone for any reason. The articulable suspicion threshold is vital to assure that people in America have the presumption of liberty. Got that? The presumption of liberty. And are free to choose their behavior unimpeded or threatened by the government. The feds cannot cast a net into the marketplace of ideas and challenge what it brings in. Were they able to do so, the constitutional protections for free expression and the privacy of liberty would be meaningless. Second, the courts have repeatedly held that the First Amendment needs breathing room, and they also have held that the government monitoring of speech curtails that breathing room. Stated differently, a person under observation changes behavior on account of the observation. Thus, by the very act of monitoring our words, the feds will have the effect of curtailing them. What he's saying here is, and I'm not reading from the article now, they don't have to come out and say, you can't say this, you can't say that, you can't say this, but they are. We know they're doing that, especially with this political correctness bullshit. But when they tell you, you know what, we're listening to everything you're saying, that's all they have to say. That's what he's telling you here. That's all they have to say to curtail what it is you say and how you say it and who you say it to. So this is what they're trying to do. The virtual or physical presence, I'm back to the article now, the virtual or physical presence of the monitors would give people pause, cause them to reconsider offering options, induce them to refrain from expressing their true thoughts, and even drive their speech underground. This is called, quote unquote, chilling. And it has been condemned by numerous Supreme Court decisions. In other words, it's illegal. The principal purpose of the First Amendment is to keep the government out of the marketplace of ideas and any governmental behavior that influences the exercise of the freedom of speech, no matter how gently, indirectly, innocently, or secretly, violates that principle and provides the basis to sue the government to have its Stasi-like monitoring of speech enjoined. Another prime purpose of the First Amendment is to encourage open, wide, unfettered, and robust debate about the policies and personnel of the government. Who can engage in that big brother watching and keeping score? Who can engage in that with Big Brother watching and keeping score? All presidents push the envelope when it comes to exercising their constitutional powers. But we never before we've never before seen in modern times a president like the present one. From his Halcyon, Halcyon, and this is how it's pronounced. Let me get it right here. Halcyon. It's pronounced Halcyon. It means calm, peaceful, tranquil. Okay? Halcyon, it's pronounced. From his halcyon days as a senator fighting for civil liberties, he has descended into a totalitarian darkness. How can he ask soldiers to defend a constitution with their lives that he disregards with his deeds? The government is worried about speech. Big deal. Speech is none of the government's business. History teaches that the remedy for tasteless speech is not government repression. It is more speech. In a free society, when the marketplace of ideas is open and unfettered, the truth is obvious. But in a repressive society, the truth becomes a casualty. Which society did the framers give us? What do you think? That's Andrew Napolitano, former judge.